This was supposed to be your person, your life, your future. But what if I told you that your certainty about what you need and who you need is actually what's keeping you stuck in pain? Today, Max and I are going to explore 4 uncomfortable truths about breakups that no one wants to discuss. We'll talk about why no one actually belongs to us, how the labels you're giving yourself right now are actually creating your reality, and why loving yourself unconditionally, especially when someone has just rejected you, is the only real path forward. This isn't going to be an everything happens for a reason feel-good session. This is about questioning your assumptions and maybe, just maybe, discovering that the stories you tell yourself about this breakup are what's actually creating your suffering. If you're ready to stop resisting what your mind is telling you and start examining whether those thoughts are actually serving you, then let's dive in. But I'm warning you now, we're going to challenge some beliefs you might not be ready to let go of. Welcome to Chaos and Chemistry, a podcast focused on having all the chemistry and feel-good you desire in your relationships without the chaos and toxicity. My name is Legan. I'm a former counselor turned coach, and I'm here with my friend and co-host Max.
Hi guys, I'm Max. I'm a relationship and trauma coach helping people improve their lives. And Legan, I think we should celebrate our first episode with actual intro music. This has been a long-term project. Yes, thank you. Thank you. We also have sound effects people, so very excited about this.
Get excited.
New generation, new chapter in our podcast career. So Legan, this is a wonderful episode because it's so pertinent. I mean, there's breakups. It's so painful and people need the right mindset to get through them.
Yeah.
Okay, Legan, so how to heal after a breakup? Why is this important?
It matters because if you don't know the true path towards healing and empowerment and growing your value through this really crappy situation, you might spend all night, every night on reels and TikToks on how to get your ex back. And that is not a good use of your time. It is not doing anything but keeping you stuck. And it's keeping your power in the other person's hand, and it's keeping your focus on the other person. And if they've rejected you, their focus is on them or their new girlfriend or boyfriend, but it's definitely not on you. So do yourself a favor, listen to us today, and save yourself from any more reels about getting your ex back.
Right.
That is not where your focus and mind needs to be right now.
Yeah.
I see them everywhere. I mean, they're all over my algorithm right now. And I always think it's so funny. It's like, how does this help anyone?
You can't heal from TikTok or people's advice on there. I think it's well-intentioned because it's like a platform to like help people and it sounds good, but a lot of stuff is very superficial. And obviously a lot of it reinforces victim mentality. It subtly keeps you in suffering and pain, especially if you're like looping on this stuff. Social media is never going to help you. So we thought it'd be great to have a couple important bullet points that kind of reframe everything, give you the right structure to help you actually heal.
Number 1, you don't know who or what is best for you. You really don't. You might think, but I love this person. I love the way I feel with them. They make me so happy. We have children together. You may have a long history. That still does not mean that you know who and what is best for you in the long run. You really don't. You think you know, but you really don't. And you don't know that it's best for them to be with you. So when we're really focused on getting someone back or getting someone to do anything outside of what they want to do in that moment, we are assuming agency in their life. We are saying, this is what is best for you, to be with me. But you don't know what journey they're on. And a lot of times relationships are so painful because, like you said, they bring us to different levels of healing and growth. And so you don't know what type of growth / pain that person needs in their future. And, you might say, well, I was so good to them and I gave them so much. Well, maybe they need someone who gives less. Yeah. Maybe they need someone that isn't good to them. So shifting your perspective so that you can see that this person is going to get what they need.
Yeah. And you may not need that as well for your growth journey. Both growth journeys, actually, in my experience, is just a lot of suffering. You have to suffer a lot to find these truths, to purify your soul, because it's attached to things that are essentially false, right? If you're in an unhappy relationship and the two people are incompatible with each other, or for whatever reason, you resisting against it will simply create more. It actually creates a system where like the karma just builds up until it blows up. And it blows up precisely because you have to start looking at what's happening here. What happens within me that I have to shift. So it's not only for them that you don't really know what's in it for them, but really what's in it for you. How do you know you're not supposed to go through this, right? So part of like healing is First, the unconditional acceptance that whatever is happening is destined for you. It's exactly what needs to happen. And that's tough because our ego gets in the way. Or it's like it's not only the ego, like the negative ego, but we're nice people. We want things to work out. We want to love. We want to be loved. And when something so beautiful blows up, it's really quite a shocker. It hurts us at so many deep levels. It's tough. So I totally understand. I mean, I have a lot of compassion for people that are going through breakups because it does rock your world at a fundamental layer. And then to actually look at it and say, well, this is for me, it's tough. It's tough to have that conversation with yourself.
But you want to have it with yourself. You want to have the courage to question your belief system and your reality, because if not, then you just follow whatever you're feeling. And when we're rejected and when we're heartbroken, all we can feel is pain. And so our mind is going to want to make sense of the pain in whatever way it can. So that doesn't mean it's going to tell you truths. It's just going to make sense of your pain. And usually making sense of our pain looks like just more pain on pain, telling yourself things that aren't true. And so if you can pause and ask yourself, how do I know this is really what's best for me? And how do I know if this is really what's best for the other person? It interrupts that thought that this shouldn't be happening and that there's something wrong because this is happening. Because when we believe that there's something wrong and we believe that something shouldn't be happening, we go into a fear response. And you don't want to be operating from a fear response. You're not in your worth and your value when you're in a fear response. You're just in reaction.
I mean, with my clients, I never actually know what's going to happen with them. And I had to really work that out of me because I want things inherently to happen in the good things, right? I'm like selling a service that a lot of good things are going to happen if you heal yourself. It sometimes goes sideways. I'm like, well, that was interesting. There's more suffering has been created, but I've had to really learn to also not resist anything in their lives. So when it goes south or they do something against what I would think, that's my ego wanting things to be a certain way, and it's not helping them. I have to flow with whatever is happening so that they can level up. And I've had to, this is the learning process for me to really start letting go with my clients too, and just seeing how they go. And I've learned that by applying it to myself. Every plan, they always said, if you want to make God laugh, just tell me your plans. And this is so true because I've always had everything planned out, and I don't think anything has ever worked in accordance to how I wanted it. And I think for me, the road to healing had a lot of suffering in it. And I think some people's road to healing has to have suffering in it. I don't know why. Some people have it very easy. They come in with high consciousness and it's just all bells and whistles. But there is a path that is very common in seekers that has a lot of suffering involved. And everything that you've clinged onto basically gets removed so that you can find yourself and realize that your self-worth wasn't out there. And that's a painful lesson to learn. If you've had a lot of attachments, they have to be stripped off. So I think my lesson in life has been to have to completely surrender, because anything else and being resistant to what the reality is has caused me so much suffering. And it was a painful lesson to learn. But if you want to keep suffering, you resist whatever's in front of you. If you want to start changing it, you start accepting it. And it's hard. It's a let go process. It's a surrendering process. It's a dying to the ideas that you had about what life should have been that were entrenched in your mind. And all that needs to be broken apart. And you have to come back to yourself. And through the process, you come back to yourself, you'll find love. But in the dark night of the soul, it's very difficult. So I have a ton of compassion for everybody. It's tough.
When you said your clients, it's easy as a coach to think, oh, I know what should be happening, or I know what steps they should take next. But if you're really practicing what you preach as a coach, you move through the ebbs and flows of their healing journey, which is usually up and down, the same way they do. I'll have clients say, oh, I really messed up, or I regressed, or I blew it, or I self-sabotaged. And I'm like, well, you'll get another chance. You'll get another chance. You're never out of chances until the day you die. You have to trust that God, your soul, wants healing for you. And so you're not going to just hit an age where you don't get any more chances to grow. So if you blow it, or you mess up, or you don't show up perfectly, because a lot of times with breakups, we think, well, I wasn't perfect. I didn't do things perfectly. I didn't maybe read their mind, or I couldn't consistently give them what they needed because of where I was at the time, or whatever was going on for you. So it's easy to beat yourself up and go, I should have known, so I could have done this. Right. But when we look at the healing journey, we will get another chance. It'll be maybe with a different person, maybe it'll be with the same person, but you will get another chance. That is the only thing you can be certain of in life, is that you will get another chance to do things differently and to learn and to grow. So that's great. That's great news. So you have to accept that you don't know why this is happening and you don't know who or what is best for you. There's a lot of freedom that comes in that.
Yeah. And I'll guarantee you that once you do get further down the road, someday you'll look back at this relationship, whatever happened to you, and see it as good. It's coming around to teach you and get you deeper into finding yourself. And when you find yourself, when you find that at the end of the rainbow, the goal, and it exists, because I felt it, other people have achieved it, they look back and they see everything as perfection. Life is a movement from perfection to perfection. And it's only the healed person that sees that. It looks so imperfect while you're in the middle of it, in the dark night. But as soon as you realize that everything had always been perfect and perfect. If it didn't happen, it wasn't meant to for you. If it happened, it was exactly meant for you. And that was the perfection. So the whole video game is very loving, very kind, but it's moving you to find the gold at the end of the rainbow. And to do that, there is a path. And it's really beautiful because it purges you, cleanses you of everything that is false, and brings you back to heart. And if you can find heart at the end of all this, not your resistance against life, but actual heart and surrender, it's totally worth the whole journey you have to go on. All the suffering, all the nights will be made whole when you get to the end of the thing. You have to have trust in the process.
Number 2, just as powerful, no one belongs to us. And oh my gosh, that is hard, especially when you grow up feeling alone. When you grow up feeling alone and a little like you're on the outside, there's too much. No one belongs to me. I have nothing. I have no one. That feeling is too much too soon as children. And so then we spend our whole life seeking something that's ours in the form of another person. So you hear people say this all the time. I can't wait to find my person. I want to meet my person. He's my person. He's my guy. And it's this longing we have for something to be ours, so then we will feel safe. But unfortunately, that time has come and gone. That time is no more. The only people that really we belonged to were our parents. And as adults, we can't ever recreate that. I mean, even your children don't belong to you. And so it's this concept in reality that can be really painful when you've always felt alone, because all you want is someone to belong to and someone to belong to you.
Why do you think people have this inherent nature of needing something outside of themselves to belong to?
Well, as infants, it is inherent because it's how we survive. I mean, some animals, they live on their mother for months after they're born. I think emotionally, we can feel our mother's emotions as humans for like 3 to 4 months outside the womb. Mammals do it. We innately do belong to our mother. I mean, we literally come from her body. So we belong to her. And that feeling of belonging is innate and we need it. And I think what happens is as children, trauma and suffering interrupt that, or just maybe abandonment interrupts that. And then all of a sudden, there's been a disruption in something that is actually very natural and normal. And so because there's that disruption, the only way that we know as children, and usually our parents know, is to get something outside of us to belong to us. So, does that make sense?
So the disruption was the mother should have taught you to be whole in yourself. And when that void, when it gets disrupted and creates the void, we then seek external things, whether it's relationships, money, wealth, fame, or device, to fill that hole. But we're kind of looking up the wrong, bark.
Well, and I don't know that as children you can be taught because it's probably not developmentally appropriate to feel whole inside yourself as a child. I think you have to feel whole in your family. You have to feel safe in the community. Like that sense of belonging has to be really healthy. And so that way, as you get older, it can transition into something that is more interdependent. But in the beginning, it is meant to be a part of a family unit or a community, that sense of belonging. But most of us have a distorted relationship with belonging because we weren't given that. Because we're born into imperfect situations and environments, and the human experience isn't perfect. So it's really to look at your relationship to belonging and to whether or not you believe people belong to you. A lot of highly narcissistic parents see their children as extensions. In a marriage union? Do you see your spouse as an extension of you? Do you see your friends as extensions of you? Or do you see them as people that are on their own journey, that need to behave the way they want to behave, need to believe the way they need to believe because it's for them? Or do you see people as something that you belong to? So you're always either engulfed or trapped in relationships. Usually we're like one side of the coin. So I don't know, back to your original questions, I don't believe that it can be taught into us as children. I think it has to be modeled. That sense of safety has to be modeled. And I think it has to be valued in our family. And then that teaches us to value it through the means of community, a relationship with ourselves, friendships, where when it's distorted, it's like fractured. And then we just cling on to,
Desperately.
as children, we just cling to whatever works. So like some people are very, very attached to their friends, and then they really struggle in intimate relationships. So they have too much belonging in this one area and zero belonging in this other area. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think what I take away from it is the critical need for safety. And the parents have to teach the child that they're loved and they are safe so the child can explore and don't have these strong attachments that are totally lopsided and unbalanced. As you get older, you can find your safety in the self-love you have for yourself, and then your relationships aren't going to be totally unbalanced. You can have a preference to be in a beautiful relationship, but if that person doesn't want it anymore, or for whatever reasons they're going through, that's okay too. Because you're safe within you. There isn't this longing, this void that is unsafety, that if they leave me, I'm going to be ruined. I'm going to be nothing. That would be developed as a child that you brought in, and now you're craving that. So the safety that gets developed in childhood, if you were lucky enough, or if you've done enough healing, as I have, I'm okay with losing things now. Before it sent me into a panic because I was so fearful of it. Just total ruminating, sent me up a wall, everything. So then I was coping all the time and I was attaching to all these things. But now I have the safety within me. I'm happy all the time because I don't have this need for someone to validate me or anything. So in my relationship right now, I give perfect freedom. I mean, I love because I just love to love, and I'm not like desperately learning like, oh my God, where is she? I need to do this. Why isn't she doing that for me? I'm not seeking anything to be filled within me because I radiate the love that I already found within me. So it just like overflows onto her. And it's beautiful that way. So it's really about discovering the love for yourself. But if you had those early childhood wounds where you don't feel safe unless you have XYZ, that person, that special someone, and then that person gets taken away, it's just totally nightmare scenario. Yeah.
Usually extremes create extremes. Extremes as children create distortions with reality as adults. So if there was too much community and not enough independence and sense of self, then the relationship to belonging gets distorted. If there's too much independence and too much self-sufficiency and too much abandonment, then the relationship gets distorted. So if you're an adult and you struggle with belonging, there's a reason for it. But like you said, belonging is really something that we have to self-generate. And here's the thing, you can feel a sense of belonging in your relationships and also know at the same time consciously that you do not belong to others and they do not belong to you. So the black and white thinking is, well, if no one belongs to me and I don't belong to anyone, then I just have to feel alone for the rest of my life. I have to accept this alone state. No, belonging is a feeling. So you can have that feeling and consciously, intellectually know that no one belongs to you happening at the same time.
Love it. Yeah. Our minds, the traumatized minds is always on extremes, black and white thinking. Yeah.
Always. Yeah. Number 3, what are you labeling yourself as a result of this breakup? This one's huge. This one's huge because everyone thinks I can't get over this person because they were so great and what we had was so special. It really is more about you believing you were special because of the relationship. You believing you were beautiful. You believing you were chosen. It's all the positive labels we give ourselves once we're in partnership with someone. We lose them. We think we do. We think we lose them when the relationship ends, and we replace those positive labels with horrible labels. Like horrible. You're not enough. You suck. You're unlovable. You're broken. And they just come into your mind. It's not like something that you can consciously force or get rid of. They just pop into your brain. But you have to see them, not identify with them, and understand that just because you get back together with this person does not change your worthiness. You didn't become unlovable in one day, and then 3 months later when they want to get back together with you, all of a sudden now you're this lovable human being. And so you want to look at how much of me is attached to them versus how much of me is attached to not being this thing that I deem the ticket to a miserable, horrible life, right? Because if I'm unlovable and I'm not worthy and I'm not enough, then I'm going to have a horrible life. And nobody wants that. So we'll do anything possible to get the relationship back, even though there probably were a lot of red flags, or there was disharmony, or that person really wasn't all in at the end. And so you don't want that. You don't want that relationship. You want to be loved. You want someone to see your worth. So you want to feel worthy. So you have to look at the labels and accept the bad ones because you don't want to be in resistance to them. Because if you're in resistance to these bad labels because you're so scared of being unworthy and unlovable and gross or whatever else you've called yourself, then you're also going to be in resistance to the other person, which means you're going to be in resistance to moving on.
Yeah, the trick here is to not extract too much information. The mind's very judgmental, especially the unhealed mind is very judgmental. And just like it judges the world, it judges ourselves, right? By whatever criteria we have, our parents have taught us, to be very judgmental. And we'll start judging ourselves and putting labels on ourselves. But those labels are just I just see them as inner critic attack. They're just conditioning. Because human beings, by their nature, are buoyant. They're very loving. They're very kind to themselves. Until the programming comes in that, like, people tell you that if you don't have this, if you do that, if people leave you, you're going to be something else. And then we internalize those. But they're just programs. They can be dismantled. It's being just compassionate with yourself and finding kindness with yourself. The only thing that's really going to heal you is self-love. So if you're getting beat up by your own thoughts, it's not really going to war against your thoughts, because that would just create a split in your mind and you would just create more suffering. But it's tenderly loving whatever arises. So if you're beating yourself up, tenderly love that person that is beating themselves up. Why are they beating themselves up? What is hurt within them? What's the soft underbelly that needs to be loved? What part of them have they, put far in the corner that you don't want to look at? That person needs to be loved. So you bring them to you bring them out of the shadow. Usually it's a neglected child self, and you say, "I'm so sorry for beating yourself up, for beating myself up. I don't want to do that to myself." And you find compassion for yourself, and you start working and letting self-love transform you. But that is accepting all the negative judgments as part of you. It's a part of you that we might not want to look at. It's a part of you that is one of the ickiest feelings is low self-worth, the bottom of the rung. But you need to love whatever arises. If really judgmentalness, love the person who is judging, being that judgmental, because they're hurt and they're wounded. So if you can find that soft part of the wounded self, you can start healing yourself. So that brings us to number 4, which is mental health 101. You have to find your love for yourself unconditionally. You have to accept yourself exactly as you are. Not this fictional person that doesn't beat themselves up, but as a person who's grieving that is beating themselves up. And in that self-acceptance, you kind of start to relax. You kind of start to surrender, and you start looking at the deeper pain. The coping mechanism is sadness and pain. That sadness and pain needs to be accepted, and you need to give it a big, loving, warm hug every time it surfaces. And it sometimes surfaces by being very judgmental to yourself. So you just keep loving, literally every day. You practice loving that part of yourself so that it's not looked as an enemy. You can't make any part of your mind an enemy. You don't love it. I don't love the inner critic, but I also understand why it's there. I understand what it's protecting me from. It doesn't want to look at the tender parts. I understand it. That's when I talk about higher consciousness, this is what it's about. It's about being able to look at yourself and being kind to yourself and understand why it's doing things. So you're no longer being tossed about, but you're being able to reflect on things and find that love for yourself.
I was just going to say, instead of focusing on getting your ex back, focus on getting love back. Don't focus on getting your ex back. Focus on getting more love back in your life. And you have to start with yourself.
How would you do that?
Well, the first thing is acceptance, like you're talking about. I mean, you can't love a self that you don't accept. It doesn't exist. A self you don't accept doesn't exist. So even if it's a judgmental self, even if it's a flawed self, even if it's a broken self, even if it's a too much self, you have to accept that part of you exists, and then loving it comes next. But you can't love something that you refuse to acknowledge.
Yeah. We are all perfectly broken. And the people that heal totally understand this. The people that don't heal stay with this fictional thing that they have it all figured out, that whatever stuff they come up with. But it's just so beautiful to finally surrender to the brokenness and acceptance of it all. It's the final let go phase.
Yeah. Is there anything else, Max? Like, is there anything else that you want to add?
Yeah, I guess I would end with that in life, when these things get taken from us, it's a grieving process. It's a grieving
Mhm.
process. You have to go through the grieving cycle, and the grief cycle has to be respected. With all my clients, as soon as I see them in a grief cycle, I'm not trying to like force concepts down their throat. I'm really just trying to be there and love them a little bit while teaching them a little bit, right? It's a teaching moment, but you can't speed up the grief cycle. Only time heals wounds. So
Mhm.
there isn't like you're going to find some magical tip or 5 steps that are just going to resolve all your problems, really. It's going to be a lot of lonely nights, a lot of grief, a lot of acceptance, a lot of depression, a lot of times you don't want to get out of bed. And that is, we talked about being perfectly broken. That is part of the broken process. We are all broken on this planet, and we have to take time. And sometimes it's sad, it's mournful, and give space for that. Give space. There's no hurry to get over an ex, or it's going to be little by little over a long period of time. Part of being loving to yourself is accepting that and taking care of yourself through that whole process. So when you're have depressive days or weeks or months that you just can't even get out of bed, love that person that can't get out of bed too, because that's really sometimes all you can do, and that is a huge thing to do, and it's beautiful. So whatever you're at, just know it's going to get better. But there is a cycle that has to. It's a natural cycle of having to let go, having to say your goodbyes, and it takes time. Don't beat yourself up.
Mhm.
What about you, Legan? What would you end it with?
You belong to you. People may leave you, but every time you stay with you, meaning you don't jump into another relationship, you don't distract with endless activities and hobbies and people, but you really sit with it. So, really, the more sad you are and the more depressed you are, the more you loved, the more all in you were. And feel proud of that. Feel proud of your grieving process. There's like this shame around grieving. And as someone who has never been in a relationship and properly grieved after, this is the first time in my whole entire life. I'm 45. This is the first time that I've actually been in a relationship and grieved afterwards because I was so avoidant. I have felt really proud of myself, as painful as it's been and as lonely as it's been at times, or as sad. It hasn't really been lonely, so I take that back. But like as sad and as painful and as confusing, I still, alongside of it, have felt really proud of myself. Like, wow, like I'm doing this. I've built an emotional resiliency to pain and heartbreak. So now I know I can risk it. Now I know I can have it again. And that's another component that we really didn't talk about earlier. But a lot of times it's so hard for us to give our heart to someone. So when it ends, we're like, I don't want to do this with somebody else. I want this person to come back in my life because I cannot do this with someone else. But the fact that you did it should be encouraging. It's just another bridge towards something better, to another person's, to something more for you that you didn't see at the time. So if you're grieving and you're really grieving, good for you. Pat yourself on the back, because that's hard. It's easier to go get under somebody, like they say, or create an immediate family with somebody else. I mean, that's all easy. Grieving is tough. So if you're grieving, feel proud of yourself. If today's episode resonated with you, you can find Max and I on www.chaosandchemistry.com. You can find Max for one-on-one coaching at www.askcoachmax.com. You can find me at Legan Lyons, Lyons spelled with an Y.com. And we look forward to seeing you next time.